Hey everybody, so welcome to Discover Dorico for July. So to start off with, a number of people have been asking kind of how do we get started, what do we do, or what's the best way of getting into Dorico. So I've created a getting started with note input type option. And this is a PDF that I'll make available after this session. So it'll be a link just underneath the video after this session. And it's a good way of just kind of diving in, using some of our shortcuts, doing some note entry stuff. It's just a few pages long, but it gets you started with kind of how to do various options, how to do various things, and is potentially a good way of getting started. And it's something, if you want to, you can print out and read and use next to your computer. It's just 4 pages. So as I said, I'll make that link available at the end of the session. Now, to start off with today, I just wanted to also look at some kind of questions and layout options and things that people have had, and maybe solve a couple of issues that I've seen people have with a few things, where they've kind of sent me a file and said, well, what have I done here? What's going on? So, for example, some people might have inserted an extra page, maybe for a graphic or something. So I'm just going to insert a page here, a blank page. In this project, and so I'm going to kind of mock up what a situation you might have put yourself in. So maybe you'd made a blank page and you put a graphic in here with something in it, and then you decided you didn't want that anymore, and you want to kind of reclaim this page. How do you get the music back there? Alternatively, maybe what you've done is you'd selected the master frame here and you deleted it, and then you say, well, actually, how do I get the music back onto this page? And in both of these cases, what you want to do is, in engrave mode, come over here to the right-hand side, and you can see these little red triangles on the page. And these little red triangles are showing me that there's something has overridden the master page. So the standard template, the standard thing that Dorico would do, it's been overridden. So I'm going to click on this page here, and I'm just going to say remove page override. And I'm also going to do the same for this page here, for page 76. And you'll see I've got one page back already, remove page override. And you might kind of describe it as I'm deleting pages or deleting blank pages, which isn't quite what's happening, but effectively that's what I'm getting. I'm getting my pages back. So now you see I've removed those blank pages, effectively deleted those blank pages. But what you do is remove the page overrides from here. I've also seen a case where somebody made a change. Maybe they edited a frame at the end of the score, and then maybe what they've done is say, well, actually, I had a system break in here, and I'm going to delete that system break now because I don't need it. And the music finishes here, but I've got a blank page at the end of the piece. And how do I get rid of this blank page at the end? Again, in the pages section over here on the right-hand side, if I select that page, you can see it's got a red triangle. And again, remove page override. Because you've overridden the standard frame on that page, then that will remove the page as well. So in a lot of cases, the remove page overrides is probably what you want. And that red triangle will show you that something's been overridden. There is going to be a lot more on engraving options and those kind of things in more of Anthony's videos. He's doing a new series on those. So for layout type things like that, if you check out soon on our YouTube channel, it's not quite there yet, but soon there'll be some more videos in more detail on those. And Dorico isn't kind of not just like an InDesign type thing. InDesign is just a layout tool for laying out the things that have already been created. Dorico is also a creation tool. So by default, it lays out the music for you, and that's where our master pages come into it. So it's laying out the music for you automatically, and a lot of people will just use that by default and you never need to change it. But there was a bit of confusion over the MA and the LA and the frames and master pages. In simple terms, before Anthony covers these in more detail in his videos, the M is a master frame that can be created and fully edited only on master pages. So these master pages down here. The letter after M, so when it says MA or MB, that's just a sequence. So it's just following the letters of the alphabet for the sequence. And every time a new M chain is created, then it will make a new letter for that. And Dorico is just aiming there for you not to lose your music. It's creating pages automatically for you as you create music, and it's just following the first template for the first pages, and then subsequently the default master page for all the other pages. If you make local changes on one page in one layout, then you get an L frame, or LA or an LB frame. And they can only be created and edited on individual pages, and the L is just a layout frame. So when you want to do things like make a worksheet, I was recently at the Marylebone Music Conference in Australia, and I was talking to lots of teachers there, and the first thing they wanted to do in Dorico wasn't to create a piece of music, it was actually just to create a worksheet, and that's where they wanted to start. So I've also, and I'll make this, again, I'll make this available after the session, I've made a Creating a Scales worksheet PDF, which again, you can, you'll be able to download and try out and make a scales worksheet. And this worksheet also comes with a Dorico project file, so that it kind of starts you at the beginning. But right at the very end of this project, it says, by the way, if you want to do this yourself, here's how you do it. But I thought, actually, let's cover some of that in today's session. And we can cover kind of how you get started making a worksheet and on what some of these layout type of things will do. So if you're following along, we're going to start a new project. So I'm Command-N, I'm pressing on my Mac. And I'll create a new project, but we'll have just a solo player. So I'm going to press Shift-P, and I'm going to type flute, just to add a treble clef instrument. That's what I'm going to need at the moment. So I'll do this. If you miss the shortcuts or anything else, just press pause or come back to this, or you can get the PDF later. But if you want to follow on along, no problem. Now, to start off with, I don't want the flute name at the beginning here. So what I'm going to do is I just switched to right mode, but that doesn't matter. I'm just going to go into layout options, and in the staves and systems option category, I'm going to select none for the staff labels and the first system and the subsequent systems. So that will turn off those staff labels, so they've gone. And now what I want to do is I want to decide where this music is going to sit. So when I go to engraving mode, what you'll find in here is, of course, you've got your standard templates and everything else, but I want to decide where everything's going to be. So effectively, I want to create a blank page that I want to put the music and decide where it wants to go. So down on the bottom right-hand side down here, we've got the master pages section, and there's a plus button down here. So I'm going to press that plus button, which will then create me a new master page. I'm going to call it blank. I don't need to base it on anything, and the type is going to be custom, so I can leave those, just press OK. So now down here, I have a blank option down here. So my page one, so I'm moving up to this this section up here. Here's my page one. I'll select it, and then I'll right-click on it, and I'll insert a master page change. From page one, I want to use my new blank master page from this page onwards. There we go. So now I have a blank page. There's nothing on it at all. So now I use the frames toggle. So up here on the left, I'll toggle the frames on, and I can create a new music frame. And this one, because I'm just making one on this page, it's going to be L. Because it's the first one I've made, it's going to be A. So it's a layout music frame, and it's going to be A. And this is where I can then start creating my music. So that's the basic start that you'll then need for creating a worksheet. And if you want to carry on with all those kind of options and that worksheet, then after this session, underneath the video, I'll give you a link to this PDF, and you can then carry on from this point, creating text frames, resizing things, adding some text into those, adding some music into those, and we'll create a scales worksheet with various options. And then in the end, we'll make something that looks like this. So I'll make that PDF available, as I said, at the end of the session. Some of the other things that I've come up this week, and I'll use this file while I've got it, was about entering dynamics and hairpins and things, not necessarily directly on a beat, so kind of between a couple of notes, for example. So I'm just going to add some notes to this, just so we've got something to start with. Actually, we'll make these longer today. So we've got something to start with. And if I select this note here, then what you normally do is select a note, press Shift D, and maybe add in a hairpin. And that hairpin is created as you'd expect, and it was created. You can see the attachment line now, and so that's where it's been created and where it's attached to. I'm going to delete that. If I wanted to create a hairpin that started later in the bar, if I've got my caret line on, I can move up right with the right arrow. And now if I press Shift D and enter my hairpin, and I'm going to press minim over here. I can use the number 7 or click on the icon. So now when I press the space bar, it's going to make that hairpin the minim length. But crucially, it started it partway through the bar. So you don't have to necessarily start it on there. Now, if you've already entered it, as you normally would, so you've done this as normal and selected a note, and you wanted to move a hairpin, then there are a few options. You can use, if you hold down Alt and use the arrow keys, then you can move a hairpin, and it will, in write mode, it will jump in sections between the notes, the available notes that are in that in your piece in that system. So that's Alt if you want to move it to the next or the previous note. If you use Alt and Shift, then you can lengthen and shorten a hairpin. So you see, I can use Alt left to move it, and I can use Alt and Shift, and I can extend or I can shorten that particular dynamic. In this case, a hairpin. And if I can also, if you don't want to just make it jump from one note to the other, then you can use, in my case, Command Alt and the arrow keys, or you might be Control and Alt if you're on a PC. And now it's moving along the rhythm grid resolution. So you can see down in the left-hand corner down here, my rhythm grid is set to quavers. So as I use Command Alt and the arrow keys, it's moving just along by quavers. And if you want to lengthen or shorten the hairpin by that, then it's Command Alt and Shift, and you can then lengthen or shorten the hairpin by whatever you've got set in the resolution you have set in the rhythm grid. Now, you're not going to remember all those shortcuts to start off with, but what I wanted to get across is they are there are options, and as you start to use some of these, then it's, for me, it's more kind of muscle memory that I remember where those shortcuts are, but not necessarily how they are to describe them or tell you them. So I often have them written down if I need to tell anybody, or I'll have to check before I email somebody to tell what they are, or I have to actually do it because it's that's how I remember. But so just to recap, Alt and arrows if you want to move the hairpin to the next or the previous note. Alt Shift and the arrows if you want to lengthen it up to the next or the previous note. Command and Alt or Control and Alt if you want to move it by the rhythm grid resolution, and Command Alt and Shift or Control Alt and Shift if you want to lengthen and shorten it by the rhythm grid resolution. There was also a case where somebody said, "Oh, this isn't working for me. Why aren't these shortcuts doing what I expect?" If you find that, it may be that when that before you updated to version 1.1, you'd set some of your own key commands. If you look in the preferences in key commands, then there is a reset key commands. If you click that button, you will unfortunately lose any shortcuts key commands that you had set yourself, but it will revert everything back to the 1.1 shortcuts. So you might find that helps. If, however, you have, well, I mean, in the future, we're going to add some functionality to let you keep your key commands, and you'll get any new ones that get updated with the program. But at the moment, hopefully, you haven't added too many shortcuts key commands yourself. But if you have spent a long time on your own key commands, and this is going to be a problem, then get in touch with me, let you know, and we'll resolve it for you, I'm sure. Email address, the easiest one to get me on will be Discover Dorico at Steinberg.de. Similarly, if you're adding things like chords, there's a couple of similar options. So actually, let's carry on this very, very exciting piece. So if I had some more notes in here, and I want to enter some chords, there's a few options that I wanted to point out that you may or may not be aware of. I'm going to press Shift Q so that I can start entering chords. I often, and I guess this is the default way that Dorico really set up, I often play the chords on a MIDI keyboard, but I use the left hand to define what the bass note is going to be. So if I was just to use the right hand and play, for example, a C7, then you might not get C7, you might get something else. And if I use a bass note as well, then I'll get C7. And some people say, well, why am I not getting the chords, the things I expect? If you have a look in write mode, in the right menu, note input options, Shift Command I, then in here, there's lots of reasons and options and things that you can set depending on how you play the chords. So for example, here, the default is to consider the played inversion, which it was doing previously. But if you ignore the played inversion, then effectively you can play the chord with one hand, as I did the first time, and you can get different options depending on what you play. There's also other options in here to, I'm going to put that back because that's the way I like it, as to whether you prefer seconds or ninths or 11ths or fourths or anything else. And in the MIDI input option, there's also options for what will happen when you play the chord. Will Dorico move to the next beat or the next bar or the next note or grid position? And depending on the music you're entering, you might want to choose one or more of these options. So you can get different options also depending on how you play a chord. So if I can get this one right, if I play, I'm going to play A, B, D, and F sharp, and I get a D6 over A. If I play that again and re-hit the B, then I'll get a different option. If I play it again and re-hit the A, I get a different option. If I play it again and then re-hit the F sharp, so I still have the chord held down, but I'm replaying one of the notes in that chord, then it will give me different options for exactly the same notes that I played. But when you're entering the chords, sometimes you want to move backwards and forwards between these chords or enter chords in different places. So it's fine to press Shift Q and enter a chord, but what happens if you want to put the chord between these two crotchets? You just press the right arrow, then again you're moving along the rhythm grid. So now when you play a chord, then it will put that chord between the two notes because you're using the rhythm grid. The same we did with the dynamics to put the hairpin partway through the bar, we can put the chord partway through as well. You've also got options when, at the moment, it's moving on to the next beat as I play a chord. If you want to go back, you could just use the left arrow, but that's only going to go back along the rhythm grid. So it takes me effectively 2 steps in this case to get back, or if I was later in the bar, I have to go back quite a long way to get back to that chord. If I just press Command left or Control left on Windows, then it will move me to the previous chord. And it will do that in every case, no matter how far away the chord is. And again, you can press Command right or Control right if you need to move to the next chord, and then you can make changes. You also don't need to delete what's in the popover. You can just play a new chord. It'll help if I can play the same chord, wouldn't it? You can play a new chord, and it will just rewrite that and put it in at the time. So there's a number of options there that you can use depending on how you want to input chords, whether you want to use 2 hands or not, whether you actually do using the other hand for shortcuts or whatever else, however else you want to enter it. What I would say is that with a lot of these things and a lot of the other options, especially for things in version 1, if you have a look on our on the Steinberg website, this is the Dorico page. Click on the Resources tab. So there's the Resources option just here on the web page, and this is where you may well have come because it's got underneath system requirements there's the Dorico updates and downloads, and that's where you can go and find the download for version 1.1. If you haven't already got it, then please get that from download. You can also, this is where we link to the YouTube channel and the Making Notes blog and various other things. If you scroll down here, there's also some videos that Anthony's done on how to do things, very quick videos on how to do various things in various modes in Dorico. But importantly at the moment, there's also a Dorico version history PDF, which generally you'd say maybe doesn't sound terribly exciting, but it really does include a lot of useful information. And for people who like something on their computer they can find, that you can search for the new things in new options in chord symbols. There's pages and pages of information in that version history PDF just about chord symbols and all of the options and things that are in there. Or if you want to know about a lot of the new options for pedal lines, and you're frustrated finding some of the help information elsewhere, while we're still updating some of those other areas, download this version history PDF, because it really does have a lot of information in there that you'll need for version 1.1, and is a really useful resource. One last thing I just wanted to mention today is somebody else had also commented that when they were using the tonality system options here, we've got equal temperament 12 EDO, they found that when they clicked on 24 EDO and then selected a note, that this up here was jumping back to 12 EDO. And so, but why does it do that? I just chose 24. And the reason is that you need to be in an atonal key to start off with. Don't confuse lack of key with atonal key. From where I am on the caret here, I'm just going to press Shift K, atonal. So I'm now in atonal key signature here. So now, these notes here, I can use equal temperament 24 EDO, so I can now use any other sharps, flats, accidentals, three-quarter tones, those kind of things. As we've said before, they don't play back yet, but you can notate all of those. Just remember to switch to the atonal key signature first. I just wanted to mention that because I try and take on board things by email and also reading the forums and the Facebook pages and all sorts of other ways that you can get in touch with us. And we make these Discover sessions from those. So if you've got any questions and things that you want to cover, in some cases you may just get a reply from me by email to say, actually, we can't cover that at the moment, but the answer to your question is, or thank you, we'll take that on board depending on what you're asking. And I know there's a couple of people this month that I will be replying to, because there weren't options we could put in this month, but maybe we can in the future, but I'll help you out in the meantime. So if you want to get in touch with me, especially for these sessions, email Discover Dorico, so all one word, Discover Dorico @steinberg.de. But also, please have a look on our there's Facebook pages, Facebook groups you can look at. There's a Steinberg Facebook page. Obviously, the Dorico YouTube channel. You can get in touch with us on Twitter. And of course, we have an official forum, which is often the best way to get in touch with people. So for the future, now we're wrapping up this session, and next week, if you're in Franklin, Tennessee, there's a Dorico evening on Tuesday the 1st of August. So that's next week, evening in the Tennessee time zone. The day after, depending on time zones, it's the day after Wednesday the 2nd of August in Melbourne. There'll be a session at the Yamaha office in Melbourne. On the week after, Wednesday the 9th of August, there's a session at the Brisbane Conservatorium. And on the 16th of August, there's a session at the Sydney Opera House. So if you fancy that one, please pop along. I will admit I managed to get to the Sydney Opera House for about 5 minutes and take an awful lot of pictures recently. It's very nice, but go and talk to Peter and quiz him about all things Dorico. The next Discover session, so the next one of these online sessions, will be the 31st of August. So it's Thursday the 31st of August, last day in August. It'll be same time, same place. And thank you for watching all of these. If you have any questions, please get in touch. Thank you.